Okay, welcome once again. This is APVA, the Association of African Podcasters and Voice Artists. And what we do at APVA is to um, highlight and, put out the African creatives in the voice industry, be it podcasting, voiceovers, spoken words, and poetry. And we also appreciate the hard work they put into the creative industry via the APVA award ceremony, which will be coming up anytime soon. And one of the methods or the strategies we also celebrate African audio creatives is the Utukufu event, which is the glory of Africa that we would be having in commemoration of Africa Day. And this is also part of our ways to expose African audio creatives to knowledge, to trends, to innovations in the global world when it comes to creativity. And I hope that at the end of our discussion today, we're able to achieve our objective, which is spotlighting storytelling as a tool for African creatives and how they can better make use of it to put themselves out, how we can, through storytelling, create a better image for Africa in the outside world, I mean globally. So once again, my name is Oiza. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Same. Pleasure's on mine.
All right, so we get straight into the discussion. Our topic for this discussion is amplifying African voices, the power of storytelling in shaping African narrative. Amplifying African voices, the power of storytelling in shaping African narratives. So before we get into the meat of the matter, I would like you to please tell us about yourself, what you do, generally about you.
Okay. Hi. Thank you again for the invitation and for having me. My name is Chiamaka Ofojimba. I am currently the Africa Recruitment Manager for University College Dublin, which is an Irish university in Dublin, Ireland. I handle recruitment activities, admission processes, but ultimately what is important for this meeting would be that I am a podcaster. I have and host my own podcast show, which is I Say What I Want. It is majorly targeted to young people in their 20s. I'm in my early 20s, and just trying to navigate adulthood can be a lot. And it's just a place where I come on to speak about the realities of this jungle called adulthood. Other than that, that's basically what I do apart from my 9 to 5. I just do podcasting and creative works as well. Yes.
Okay, so while I was reading your profile, I read about your podcast, I See What I Want, that talks to 20-somethings about adulthood. And then it made me remember there's this song a Nigerian artist sang. It's called Adulthood Anthem. And in the song,
Yeah.
just about how adulthood is a scam.
Yes, it is a big scam.
Oh, wow. So you agree with her? All right.
I do.
Okay. We do acknowledge the work you're putting into the African creative industry, and that is why we've deemed it fit to have you in this discussion. All right. So would like you to share with us, how did you find yourself in this creative industry, particularly in storytelling?
Okay, thank you. Like I said earlier, navigating this jungle called adulthood and just trying to understand the different things that has been happening and just the lack of information. And so how I stumbled into it was during the pandemic. Everybody was at home and I was just thinking to myself, and an idea just popped up to start podcasting. I would say that as at 2020, podcasting wasn't really huge as it is right now. I mean, there were different people in the space of podcasting that were doing great things, or they are still doing great things. But at the time, it wasn't a huge industry, I would say. But I started then, and it was just a space for me to come up and talk about what a fellow 20 something would be going through. Just talking about life, talking about purpose, talking about career, talking about money, and everything encompassing the adulthood life, right? And honestly, at the time, I did not really see it as storytelling, because storytelling would be another aspect of this thing. But I just saw it as a space where I could come and rant. But then in the
Mm,
process of ranting, it's very important that you tell the right narrative, because people will listen, and then what they listen to is what they will take home, and then that's
mm,
what will be embedded in their hearts and embedded in their minds. So I became careful of what I was saying. So rather than saying adulthood na scam, truthfully it is,
mm,
it's more expressing and being vulnerable with the things that we face and how we can face them easily. So it's like, yeah, there are certain things that we would meet on this journey, but there are also certain things that has been put in place for us to move past it. So that's what I started doing with my podcast. So beyond coming to complain and coming to rant, it's saying, okay, yes, this is how we're feeling, granted, but
mm.
oh, sorry about that. This is how
That's
I'm
okay.
feeling, and this is it. But there is a way we can, navigate through this, and that is where storytelling then comes into place. Yeah.
Now, I like the fact that you talked about being careful of what we say, because that has a way of shaping the minds of
Yes.
whoever is listening about what Africa is about. And that leads me to the next question. What are your thoughts on or concerning the African narrative out there in the past years? And then recently, you'd agree with me that there's beginning to be a sort of a shift in the African narrative globally. So what are your thoughts on how it has been in the past years, and then the little changes we're experiencing recently?
Okay, so ultimately, I would say that the media has played a huge role in
Mm,
shaping the narrative of the common man in Africa. And this
mm,
is because when we in Africa, we understand what is going on in our home country, be it Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, wherever you're from in Africa. But to the person who doesn't stay in Africa, his mindset is limited to just one thing, that Africans are suffering. They don't have
mm,
infrastructures, they don't have good roads, they don't have electricity, they don't have water. And that is because that is what the media has portrayed as Africa. And for the
mm,
longest, we had no idea. So we were angry, and we've always been angry as to why would a documentary be on Africa, and all they're showing us is that it's corrupt and our bad rules. But like, there are things going on. There are individuals in Africa that doing amazing things and um, making so much milestones in their career, but the media is not doing that. So for the longest, I would say that the major problem has been the media. But
mm,
thankfully, due to exposure, due to knowledge, and just due to people traveling out of the country and hearing other people's perspective, they've come back, and then they're shaping that narrative. Now, people would not ideally want to go on Instagram and post about their milestones, but now you see people doing that. Now people are taking charge of the story themselves. So we're not leaving it to the news outlets. We're not leaving it to the blogs to tell our stories. We are taking it, like, we've taken charge of it and saying, I am an African, I am a Nigerian, and this is what I am doing. So the average person will come on my page and see me, a Nigerian, doing or achieving great things. And it's the same with every other person in Nigeria, in any country in Africa. So I think what has changed so far has been that people have now taken charge of telling the African story. And it's because we are tired of this
mm,
whole Africa is poor. We're a very rich continent. We're very rich. We're very rich in so many resources, in people, in natural resources. And so people have taken charge of it. And the fact that people also travel, because by the time you travel out, let's say for studies, and then you interact with your classmates from other countries, and they're telling you, oh, you're from Africa. First off, the narrative that Africa is a country, that is already a problem.
mm.
People don't
And
realize
we
that
live
there
in
are
the
different
bush.
countries. There are already different countries in Africa, right? Africa is but too much for you to say that we're just one country. And then
Mhm,
so I think people internally, they sort of got angry. Of course, we're not going to start a war, but internally sort of got angry, saying, I'm from a good place and I have access to good things. The fact that I came all the way to your country to study doesn't mean that I'm suffering. So I think people just took charge of this narrative and said, you know what, we're not going to keep quiet about our achievements anymore. We're not going to keep quiet about our milestones anymore. We are going to be loud about it. And thanks to Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, people are putting their stuff out there. Thanks to YouTube, people are putting their stuff out there. Before, some African creative would not be recognized, or even if they were recognized, it would be like a handful of them. But right now, I don't know any space that you walk into and at least you would not see one African person from the different parts of the country. So yeah,
That's
so I
very
think people
exposed
have
to.
taken, yeah. So I think people
Thank
have
you
just
very
taken
much.
charge of it to change the narrative. Yeah.
All right. So let's dive a little into the creative industry, which you are part of. In your opinion, how or what ways would you say that the emergence of technology has affected the creative industry, whether good or bad?
Oh, I would say it's definitely good. There might be some bad
Okay.
aspects there, but I would say it's definitely good. Because the emergence of technology has given creatives a space to showcase themselves. You know, as a creative, your major aim is to showcase your skill. For AI, for example, I know some people are a bit on the wall about or using ChatGPT as a creative and it's coming to take
Taking our
over,
jobs away.
it's taking our jobs away and all that. But I also see it as a way that we can sharpen our skills. Yes, it's an AI, but human beings are still important. If human beings are not important, I'm pretty sure the whole world would have been filled with robots by now. But I think we're all important. So I think it's a way for us to sharpen our skills, a way to challenge ourselves to do better. So it can be bad if you decide to rely solely on the technology and not improve yourself. It's very important that you improve on yourself. The people coming up with these technologies are human beings. They're not aliens. They are people, right? So they saw a loophole somewhere and said, you know what? Why don't we create an AI that would just automatically create sentences for people? Now, why that has its bad side, also has its good side. So you as an individual, you as a creative, you make sure that you sharpen your skills, you make sure that you constantly improve on yourself. So when you walk into a space, people will be willing to listen to you and people will be willing to see your work, not because you relied on the technology. Yes, the technology is there to make your life easier, but it doesn't mean that you should be lazy. It doesn't mean that you should stop improving on yourself. So I think the emergence of technology has been good, but the most important thing is for people or creatives to remember that it is just there to help you. It is not there to do all your work. It's just there to help you. It's kind of like adding it to your portfolio that I'm skilled at using ChatGPT, but this is who I am. Without ChatGPT, I am still a creative. So that's the question. Without these technologies, are you still a skilled creative or you are solely dependent on these technologies? Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Now, you may have touched on this a little earlier, but I would like us to do a bit more explanatory. I would like you to give a bit more explanatory answer to this. And that is some of the successful examples of African narratives that you think have changed over the years via storytelling and, via African creatives just being themselves or doing what they're good at doing.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let me see if I can limit it to a certain sector so it won't be all mumbled up together.
Okay.
So I won't call names, but I would say that maybe people or the narrative for Africans, like I said, is that we are poor and we don't have any education or anything at all going on with our lives. So if I'm to use like a very recent thing that is happening right now in Nigeria and a big win for Africa as a whole would be, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there is a Nigerian chef who has actually broken the world record. I wanted to say she's attempting to, but she has broken it already for the longest cooking time. Now, to the older generation, it will probably be very surprising to them that not only is this person an African, but this person is also a chef. So it means that this person has spent time in culinary school. So it means that being a chef is not just limited to a certain class of individuals. It's not just limited to if you have money or if you have influence. It means that this person has been exposed so much to know that she can go into culinary school and then get a certificate and call herself a chef. Now, she did not just stop there. People might not think that, oh, Africans can go into the Guinness World Records. I mean, we have Kafi, who is a dancer and also won the Guinness World Record for the longest dance. But people also can now see that Africans are not just limiting it. So it's not just a local championship type of thing. Now we're competing on the world level. Now we're coming out and saying, look, if somebody from another continent, from another country can do this thing, I can also do it. It doesn't matter if I'm African, it doesn't matter if I'm European, it doesn't matter where I'm from. I am an individual and I have skills. Now it's a plus for me that I'm from Africa because I know that I'll have such good backing. I know that people will support me. I know that my people will support me and be there for me. So I think that's what the storytelling and narrative has changed over time, is that people are now, like I said, we've challenged it by telling our stories ourselves. We've owned it and we're telling our stories ourselves. And now we're not just competing locally, we're taking it to the world stage so that people can also see that, yo, an African is doing this thing. So when they go back home and they're thinking about it, it's not just going to be, oh, Africa is just that place where people are poor, bad roads, bad electricity and all that. It's, oh, the story now will be, there is an African lady who has just beating the current Guinness World Record, and everybody will be keen to know, and that will now shed more light on Africa, and people will now want to know what exactly is happening in this country for somebody to think that she can break the Guinness World Record. So I think over time, it's from us challenging the narrative ourselves. We've, like I said, we've owned it, and now we're competing on the world stage, and now we are changing, whether we know it or not. This has brought a huge spotlight to Nigeria and to Africa, and it is going to even change the narrative. And it's not just the work that she has done. There are also other individuals in other sectors, in education, in IT, in tech, in hospital, in whatever career field, really. They're already doing really great and amazing things, and they are shining a spotlight on Africa. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, and you're really making this discussion pretty easy, and
Okay.
I love that. Thank you for that. So all of what you
Awesome.
said connects directly to my next question, which is about what other ways would you say that African voices, can continue to promote a healthy image for Africa? You just mentioned Hilda Abasi, who is breaking, or who has broken, because she has done it already, who has broken the Guinness World Record. So aside this, what are the ways you think African voices can continue to promote a healthy image for Africa, and people will no longer see us as those people living in the bush with lions and elephants?
Yeah. So I think what would help us as Africans, because let's not be oblivious of the fact that yes, there's some people that are doing great things in their sphere of influence, but there are also people painting a bad image for Africans as well. So, for example, I traveled one time to a certain African country, I won't call names, a certain African country, and just because they saw that I am from Nigeria, they automatically pushed me into the immigration room to ask me further questions. Now, I know, I mean, it pained me, I'm not even going to lie, but I understood that it's because there are other people that are coming here and they are looking, they're causing trouble. So it's not me as a person, it's that there are also people that are causing trouble. So I think that in as much as we're trying to change the narrative and we're trying to push media and we're trying to own it, I think we also have the work is on us individually, because I can be in my house, putting in the effort, being a great podcaster, doing my job diligently. Someone else, Hilda, can be doing her job well. And then somebody somewhere would just decide to go to another country and cause trouble. And then by the time you cause that trouble, it's a whole narrative that, oh, that is how Africans are, or that is how Nigerians are, that is how Ghanaians are. Once they come into a certain place, they're going to cause trouble. So I think it's a personal journey. It's an individual conviction, literally. So you can do all the work, but if we do not get to the point where we all own it individually and say, look, we're trying to paint a good narrative. And so this is my continent, this is my country. I am a representative of this country. So whatever I do there is going to go back, like it's going to show in the country that I'm coming from. So if I go to a certain place and I leave a bad report, it's not going to be, oh, so person. It's going to be your nationality that they're going to hone. So it won't be, oh, participant A had an issue in this country. No, it will be that a Nigerian came, or an African man came into this country and caused havoc. So I think at the end of the day, it's a personal conviction. While the media and while some people are doing great things, we need to honestly just have that personal conviction to do the right thing and just understand that we're representatives, because the other people, like people who are non-Africans, they understand this. And so when they go to certain places, they know that they have to behave in a certain way. So yeah, that's how I answer that question.
Yes, I heard you talking about when people from other continents, go outside of their continent, they are very conscious and mindful of what they do, because they know they're not just representing themselves, they're representing the continent that they come from. And Africans to imbibe that in their attitudes as well. All right, so that leads me to the next question. What are the possible steps to address the underrepresentation of the African narrative? So after this question, we'll go back into, storytelling and all of that. I just want us to capture the African image in totality.
Okay, sorry, could you ask the question again?
What are the possible steps to address the underrepresentation of the African narrative?
Okay, so one way I would say would be through knowledge and enlightenment. I think once people are enlightened on what to do, they will do them. Genuinely, people might they don't know what they're supposed to do, genuinely speaking. So we cannot fully blame them for the attitude. They might just grow up in a certain way and then have the opportunity to travel. Now, because they don't know, they are not going to do the right things. So I think it's knowledge. Knowledge is key. So passing across the right information, not necessarily chastising them, but just passing knowledge across to them and saying, look, as a person, and again, it starts from one person, and from one person it builds to a community, and then from community it builds to the entire continent, and it builds to every single person in every country, right? So if this knowledge is not shared with people are not going to know. So the key step is to share this knowledge. The key step is to enlighten people, be it through media, be it through conferences, be it through podcasting, be it through storytelling. Is just putting that knowledge in every person that you come across, be it through word of mouth, through conversations that you have with your friends. It's knowledge. So once people know what to do, except they really have strong head that they will know what to do the right thing. But if you pass the knowledge across, I believe that they will do the right thing. Yeah.
Knowledge it is. What way should the global creative industry better incorporate and celebrate the African culture and perspective? Because for one, I'm so excited about what Africans are awakened to do. Hilda has set a very big example, and trust me, we would have more of this from other African creatives, right? So what better way can we, incorporate and celebrate these gems coming out of Africa?
Okay, so I'd say we need to accept our own. I see that sometimes we try to copy what the other people are doing. We're very unique as a continent, from our dressing to our food, our hairstyle, to our skin color, our melanin is amazing, so I think we just have to own it and not try to copy what other people are doing. And for example, what Hilda is doing, we can see how everybody has rallied around her. I mean, I don't know her personally, but I'm owning it like I won the Guinness World Record, right? And that's what every single person is doing. It's just that sense of belonging, knowing that, oh, this person, I know, I might not know this person personally, but this person is an African, and so I am going to celebrate this person, whether the person is from Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya, wherever you are an African person. Like, we are sort of a family. It's that sense of belonging, really. And so as long as we bridge that gap of saying, oh, I'm better than you, or you're better than me, as long as we bridge that gap and have that sense of belonging, yeah, that competition, it's really not necessary. The sky is wide enough for all of us to do what we need to do. So that sense of belonging, just walking in there and knowing that this person is my person. I don't need to know you personally, but when I see you, I am going to celebrate you. And like I said, we can see that with what is happening with Hilda. I mean, I got on a call today with my bosses, and they're not Nigerians, they're not Africans, but they knew about the world record attempt, and they were excited about it as well. So yeah, they heard about it, they saw it on BBC Africa, and they were really excited. And so imagine a non-African excited about something an African is doing. Why are we not excited about it? Why are we not owning it? Why are we not shouting? Why are we not jubilating? I mean, if we could declare one day a public holiday, that would be nice. But if we can't do that, we
she
can.
deserves it, really.
It does. If we can't do that, it's celebrating it like it's your own. Like you said, if as Hilda has done it, other people are going to do other amazing things. People have done other amazing things. We have to celebrate them. We have to push them forward. We have to tell the world, look, they might not know what's going on. We have to bring it to their notice that, yo, there's an African who is doing something amazing. You need to see this. You need to celebrate it. So I think it's that sense of belonging first off, and just knowing that for every time you hear an African person has done something, push it on your social media platform, tell your friends, tell everybody that cares to listen, and just push it. Yeah.
Push it. That's the word. Thank you. So let's get back into storytelling now. How do you choose the right story to tell for a particular audience? Because I know that there are people like you that storytelling comes really easy for you. It's something you could wake up and just do it. And then there are some other persons that have to literally go through a thorough thinking process before they can, actually deliver. So for people like that, or of course, other creatives as well, how do you get to choose the right story for a particular audience that would make impact?
So what I was going to say is you have to identify a niche and just stay there. So you can't tell everything. It's not possible to paint the whole narrative. There's so much to cover. You cannot cover everything. I think people connect more with real and authentic stories. And you also don't want to come and, tell or say something that you cannot connect to as well. The reason I talk mostly about adulthood is because this is my current reality. I am going through adulthood. So it's easy for me to dig deep within myself and look at what is happening within me. And then I am certain that when I talk about it, a fellow 20-something will be able to relate to it as well. So I think most importantly is to carve a niche for yourself and stay there. If you want to talk about or change the narrative of finances, then stick there. If you want to change the narrative of African culture, African history, stay there. I think you just need to define who your audience are, define your audience, define what they need from you, and then feed that to them. Everybody is going to, we all have somebody that we look up to when it comes to makeup. We have somebody that we look up to when it comes to our finances. We have somebody that we look up to when it comes to cooking. We have somebody that we look up to when it comes to personal development, right? And so because we know we can't get these things from just one person, we don't mind listening to 5 different people. That's fine, as long as they are feeding a particular need. So I don't think it's possible for one person to feed you on everything, feed you on finances, on how to cook, how to apply your makeup, personal development, finances. It's a whole lot for one person to cover. So I'd say carve your niche, just figure out what exactly you're passionate about. Figure out something that you know that when you're talking about it, it is not, you're not lying, you're being vulnerable, you're being authentic, you're being real, because people can spot when somebody's being fake. So if you're being real and you're being authentic and you're being vulnerable, people are going to stick with you, and you're going to cater for those people. It might be one person, it might be 1,000 people, it might be 10,000 people, but trust me, people are hungry. So just discover the food that they need and just feed them.
Okay, so as a creative or a storyteller, having been able to carve my niche and I've prepared everything, I have it all cooked, how do I get my work accessible to the global audience?
Well, currently we have tools that allow you to showcase your work and it will reach the global audience even without paying a fee. So there's Instagram, there's Twitter, there's YouTube, there is podcasting, there's Spotify for podcasters. So it depends on your niche, and there's TikTok. I mean, it depends on what you want to do. There are already platforms put in place that you can showcase your skill, and you'll be sure that people all over the world will listen to you. Right. So YouTube is not limited to just Africans, it's not limited to your family members. Everybody, it's a global tool used by everybody. So by the time you, like you said, you've cooked your stuff and you're ready to dish it out to the world, just be very know who your audience are and know how to strategically place yourself. So know, I mean, there are strategies to how these things work, how YouTube works, how TikTok works, when to post, when not to post, right watch time, hashtags to use and all that. So once you've done your homework and all of that, there are tools in place that you can just put your work out there and people will see you. From the pandemic, we've seen people on TikTok, for example, we've seen people, songs, okay, let me use songs, for example. Songs in Nigeria are now blowing up in the Western world, in European countries. Why? It was on TikTok. It was through pandemic, and now people are dancing and singing to these songs. We didn't think it was possible, but now people are doing it. Amapiano is not just limited to the South Africans now. People all over the world want to dance Amapiano, and they're very interested in the beats. Even the artists in those countries are interested in collaborating with African artists to include these beats and to include these sounds in their own songs. So the platform is there already. Just showcase your skill and showcase your talent. Yeah.
Okay, my final but not the least question is how do individuals and organizations outside of Africa support African voices? Now, I'd like you to answer this question vis-a-vis how do we even get them to support before we now talk about, okay, these are the ways that they can support. I hope you understand me. Okay.
Yes, I do. Okay, so what comes to mind is positioning. If you are going to position yourself, or if you're going to open yourself up for global opportunities, then you need to position yourself to be able to access those global opportunities. People, for example, when you put your stuff out there, are you constantly improving on your personal brand? Or are you just this is one way, this is how it is, right? Is your brand, are you flexible enough to cater to everybody that you have carved within your niche, right? So if you position yourself for global opportunities, opportunities will come to you. So are you putting your work out there? Are you engaging relevant stakeholders? Are you going online to search for opportunities? Sometimes you have to go and search for opportunities. Sometimes these global institutions or partners, they might have put something up on their page. You need to tell yourself that if I see something on the UN page, it's far from creative, but the UN page, I am going to put in an application, and I am sure that the work I have done is good enough to get me into the door. So the first thing would be to improve on yourself, improve on your skills, improve on, make sure that you do excellent work. People cannot deny excellent work. People cannot deny value. So once you're giving value and you have put out an excellent work, the next thing you need to do is position yourself for these opportunities. Now, they might come to you directly, or you might be the one to do your research. You probably know the companies or the agencies within your niche that you would like to work with, right? So go on their pages, follow them, stalk them, whatever it is. Once you see an opportunity that has opened up, you've done your homework on yourself, put your work out there, and then you'll be selected. I don't think currently, I think people want to actually collaborate with Africans now as it is, because they've seen that there's so much talent, they've seen that there's so much opportunities, they've seen that the mind of an African is creative, and so they are looking to actually collaborate with us. Now the question is, if they are ready, are you ready? Have you sharpened your skills? Are you harnessing the advantages that you have? Are you positioning yourself, or are you just waiting for that breakthrough moment, but you're not ready? You have to constantly be, you have to be so
I just
ready
want
that
to
if they
blow.
wake you up tomorrow, do you get, or you just want to blow and then that's it? Or even in the blowing, because after you blow, right, you also need to make sure that you don't become a local champion. So if you
Yeah.
want to blow and be an international champion, blow and let your voice be a global voice. It's fine, or if you want to be a local champion, let me not say local champion, if you want to be known locally. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, the recognition you get from the global audience it's nothing compared to what you will get locally. So we've already established that the world is ready to partner with you. Question is, are you ready to partner with the world? Have you positioned yourself for global opportunities? Have you harnessed your skills? Have you sharpened them? Are you engaging in relevant key stakeholders, so that when it comes, you won't say that somebody somewhere hindered your progress? Because at the end of the day, it's you that they are looking to. So when they speak to you, are they going to be able to get value from you, or is it just going to be, oh, that's me, that's me, that's me? So
Okay.
position yourself for global opportunities. Yeah.
Okay. So the final part of the question, how do these organizations or individuals support African voices?
So for African voices, well, I would say that it's one step at a time, right? I'd say one way that they can support is to support. So even in the smallest way possible, it will be to organize conferences. It will be to create like an online buzz, do like online competitions for people to join in and get something out of it as well. It will be to, because I'm limiting it to just voices, because, and that's the audio creatives, because some people, like for example, YouTube already supports its African, like already supports African YouTubers, um YouTube events that they do in certain parts of the world. They send Black creators like boxes of gifts with like goodies and whatnot. So just those little incentives will go a long way. It's sort of, you're recognizing their work. You're saying, hey, I see you. I see the work that you're doing. Yes, you're an African, but I really appreciate the work that you're doing. So for audio creative, it will be the same thing. I think that a lot of for podcasting, for example, a lot of platforms are still coming up. We don't have so many yet. We don't really have a lot of platforms yet, but they are coming up. And so, what they can do now is to make sure that, as a podcaster, for example, you can put your show on our platform and then we'll distribute it to the world. So, you don't have to pay a fee for people in Germany to hear your podcast. You don't have to pay a fee for people in Argentina to hear your podcast. This platform, we've created it for you. Do your thing and then we'll do the work for you. So just those little incentives, really. And I believe that over time, like I said, in 2020, podcasting wasn't, it was, people were doing it, but it was sort of a hobby. It wasn't really it wasn't like YouTube. right?
Mm.
But now I think like the spotlight is coming on podcasting. People are doing, there's so many amazing podcast shows out there from Africa that are doing so many things. And I believe with time, like I said, it's step by step, with time, more opportunities will be open to podcasters. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Chiamaka Ofojimba, a creative and
Yeah.
podcaster, host of the podcast show I Say What I Want, where she talks to 20-somethings about how adulthood is not a scam.
Yes, that is
Thank you
coming.
very much for
Thank you
for
so much
being
for
on
having me.
APVA. It's a pleasure having you. My name is Oiza. I am a voiceover artist and a radio presenter here in Nigeria, Africa. And no, we're not living in the bush.
We are not.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for your
much.
time. And we hope that when we need you again, you'd always be available for us.
It will be my
All
pleasure.
right.
Thank you so much.
All right. In the meantime, have an amazing day over there.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.